Alright, so welcome back. This is lesson 2 of Apostolic Praise Basics. And in this lesson, we're going to go over a couple of new things here. Of course, you remember in the last lesson we went over the major, the minor chords, and the key of C. Just your basic stuff. We also went over, I'm not going to do a whole review of all this stuff because you can always just go back and watch the video. We also went over how to kind of do little filler notes. Just using the notes in between the notes of the chord. Covered quite a bit in that first lesson. It was a little bit lengthy, but hopefully it was a blessing to you. One thing that we need to really start off in this lesson with is our inversions. And basically what you do with inversions is you're just playing the major chord just like you did normally. That's called root position. But now you're gonna take the bottom note, the C, and you're gonna change it to the C up top, C an octave higher. Okay, and of course when we say octave, this is C an octave higher, this is C an octave higher. Okay, this is C an octave lower, an octave lower. Octave just means 8 notes. Okay, so 8 notes higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Basically the same note, but you just play it higher up or lower up, depending if we're saying up an octave or down an octave. But the inversions basically work like this. You have root position. Okay, you're going to have first inversion, E, G, C. And you're going to have second inversion, G, C, E. Okay, then if you change it again, you're back up to your root position, just a little bit higher on the keyboard. All right, so C major chord root position, once again, C, E, G. Okay, E, G, C. And then G, C, E. All right, so I want to practice those. All right, let's go ahead and do it on an F chord. Okay, so F is F, A, C, remember? Now we're going to go A, C, F. Then we're going to go C, F, A. Then back to F, A, C. Okay, root position. So root position, F. First inversion, F. Second inversion, F. Okay, we're going to do it with G now. G major chord, G, B, D. First inversion, B, D, G. Second inversion, D, G, B. Okay, then we're back up to root position. So one more time, G, root position. First inversion, second inversion, back to root position. Okay, it also works the same way with minor chords. Now at this point you may be saying, well, what's the importance of this? Well, just think about it. If you come to a chord in a song where it says play a C, instead of now just having one option, now you've got 3 options that you can play, because you can use any one of these inversions. And you'll of course want to use the one that has the melody note on top. We'll talk more about that later or here in a minute. Okay, so the minor chords, let's do D minor, D, F, A, root position, F, A, D, first inversion, and A, D, F, second inversion. Okay, so, alright, let's do, of course, then you're back to root position. Let's do E minor, E, G, B, first inversion, G, B, E, you're still using the same root note, and then second inversion, B, E, G. Your left hand won't change the note, it's still holding down that bass note of the E, it's still an E minor chord. You're not going to G just because G is your bottom note here. It's still an E minor chord. You're just playing a different inversion. And same rule applies for all the rest of the chords. Okay, A minor, A, C, E. Okay, C, E, A, first inversion, and E, A, C, second inversion. Okay, so root position, first inversion, second inversion. Let's run through all of them real quick. So C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor. Alright, and we'll stop there. Okay, so those are what we call inversions, just a different way to play the same chord. So now when you're playing a song, like say for instance Jesus is the answer, you can kind of use an inversion as like a filler note. So you could do like, Jesus is the answer for the world today. Then watch this. Above him there's no other. See what I did? Above him there's no, on the second beat. Going up to a higher inversion. I could have also done. Okay, I'm going to overuse it now. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Alright, you see what I did? So what I did there is I was playing the song, but on the different beats, I and use different inversions. I'm kind of like almost dancing around on the keyboard with inversions. Now obviously it may take some time before you get to that level where you're that proficient with using the inversions, but that's where you want to kind of get to. And of course, one other really important one to point out here is particularly the first inversion of whatever key you're in. So right now we're playing in the key of C. That's what we've been playing everything in. When you end the song, you typically are going to want to end, or even when you end just the chorus, you're going to want to end on the first inversion. And why? The answer is because your top note is C, which is your root note right here. That's the very highest note on your keyboard. So notice how it'll sound. We just play the end of the song. See how pretty it sounds versus just playing that? It sounds a lot better. And a little ending you can do there as a fill-in too. You can go. Now what I did, you might hear it sound a little bit different than just going bump, bump. I did kind of roll the chord. So I played each note, the chord one note at a time. Do it slow motion here, and I'm holding down the pedal. So, all right, or you can do it faster. And I'm holding down the pedal while I do that. All right, so that's a couple of different things you can do. That's a good way to end the song, though. All right, and that brings us to a couple of fills that I do want to mention that you can use. One in particular is the octave fill, kind of similar to using an inversion. But say you're playing a song, you know, like Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how sweet. Just a really simple. Just a very simple little just kind of jump up thing you do there. You know, we use the song, the same thing we learned, Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the answer. And same thing there, you notice I kind of rolled the chord. Real simple fill, but it really works. So Jesus is the answer for the world today. Of him there's no other. And of course I'm overusing it here. Overusing it a little bit, using it every time there. Of course you want to use it with moderation. And I kind of jumped ahead of myself there with the rolling chord. I call this a broken chord. A broken chord is when you play the chord, you break the chord apart by its notes. Okay, you can play a broken chord ascending, meaning going up, or you can play it, and you can just do it in the same spot. So Jesus is the answer. Of course, I'm overusing it here every time. Simple fill that kind of dresses it up better than just going, you know. You can also do a descending fill. Same thing, broken chord but going down. Playing the notes of the chord going down. Okay, and then you could even mix it up. You can go up part of the time, down part of the time. So now you've learned the octave chord, you've learned the broken chord. Now let's say we put them together. Okay, so we could do Jesus is the answer for the world today. Of him there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer. Notice you could even, when you're playing, you know, maybe you don't want to jump all the way back down to where you were, you know, stay up there a little higher, and then come back down, you know. So you can kind of mix it up, you can kind of just have some fun with it, make it your own. That's a couple of easy fills you can do. Once again, you can mix them up. So you've learned inversion fill, where you can take and play inversions in your song. You've learned octave chord fill, which was where you can jump the chord up. You've learned ascending fill. Okay, ascending fill. You've learned descending fill. And you've learned combination of the octave and ascending. Okay, you've also learned a combination of octave and ascending. That's descending, octave and descending. So you've learned inversion fill, broken chord fill, octave fill, ascending broken chord, descending, and then octave ascending and octave descending. So you've learned basically 6 or 7 different fills here that you can use when you're playing. And what you want to do is mix them up. And I didn't even mention the other fill we learned, which is the diatonic fills. In other words, playing the in-between notes. So you've learned at least 7 different fills here that you can use and that you can play in many, many different places. Even though you're just playing with basic major chords, you're not using anything crazy. You're not using any sevenths, suspended 2 chords. You're not doing anything crazy here. You're basically just using just basic fills. You now have 7 different fills at your disposal that you can use. One other fill I do want to show you that I feel is a really important fill to learn, and we've kind of already touched this in that we use it as a C fill, in between fill. Okay, use it between going from the G to the C. But when you're in the key of C, you can use G A C as a little fill pretty much anywhere. So Jesus is the answer. Use that a lot, the G, C, A. You can also use a lot the C, D, E. We've learned that one over the C chord. You can use it pretty much all over the song. Now, one thing you can do to give your playing a little bit more jazz is using what are called slide or grace notes. Grace notes or slide-off notes, also known as blues notes, are basically played like that. You're just sliding off one of the black notes. Okay, so say when you're playing a C chord, you'd slide off the E flat, right? Alright, when you're playing a G note, you just slide off the B flat. When you're playing an F chord, a G chord and then an F chord, you slide off the A flat. Alright, so if you wanted to kind of incorporate just a kind of a jazzy sound into Jesus is the answer, you could go something like, Jesus is the answer for the world today. There's no. So you're just using basic stuff here, and of course then you end on your E, G, C chord, don't forget that. So we're just using some basic stuff here, but I mean it makes it sound really good, it makes it really sound dressed up. You can also slide off the E flat going down to the D note. Okay, now that brings into light a whole different subject that I'm just going to go over very briefly because I know this lesson has pretty much been about fills and different things you can do. But when you're playing chords, you don't always have to play the entire chord. Okay, you can play. Let's say you just wanted to play a C chord and give it a different sound. Instead of playing C, E, G, you could play just G, C, and G. Just play the first and last part of the chord, and see how different of a sound that gives it. It's just a more basic sound, but it's kind of pretty. Okay. Now what you just saw me do there was the same little fill we learned, G, A, C, but instead of just doing it with notes, we did it with octaves, playing with our thumb and our pinky in our right hand. Okay, so that's another little thing you can do. Any fill you can do with single notes, you can also do as octaves in your right hand. Okay, so that's another thing. Now let's say you wanted to do it, same concept with inversions. Okay, so here's a C first inversion, E, G, C. We're going to kick out that middle note, so got it, you could use it. Okay? So there's all kind of different things you can do. Same thing with the second inversion, you could do it. And even if you just want to practice using that just on the C note, just to get you started. And then when you go to the inversions, to the inversion fill, you can use the same thing. Play the inversions but leave out the middle note. There's all kind of different things you can do if you just use your imagination when you're playing music. Alright, so let's play Jesus is the Answer using all these different fills and different things we played. And one thing I like to do, we haven't talked a whole lot about too, is I like to play the melody note on top. So you notice that Jesus is the answer. So when you're playing, you're going, play the inversion that fits that melody note if you can find it. It'll take some practice learning how to do that. This is just an example, but Jesus is the answer for the world today. Without him there's no Alright, so that's just some basic stuff playing it like that. Now let's play it with the fills we've learned. We'll do a little walk up. Instead of just playing the C like that, we'll do Jesus. Do a little walk up. Jesus is the answer for the world today. There's no Jesus is the way. Jesus is. Alright, so that's just another basic lesson there. We did touch into some more advanced concepts that we're going to be building upon and teaching you more about and going over again, and you'll see us and hear us playing it. But I want you to understand that you can be creative with your fills. You know, you don't always have to feel like just because I don't know fancy chords, I can't do fancy fills. You can still make a song sound good even with just major minor chords. Just like we just played it for you and it sounded great. Just using just basic major minor chords and basic fills. So even though you don't know fancy chords, you can still learn to play fills and runs. You can still learn to play the melody. Of course, some people have an easier time hearing the melody than other people do. So, but that'll just get you started. That's just a couple of different fills you can do, just some basic stuff. So go ahead and practice Jesus is the Answer, like we just showed you. You know how it's played. You know, just C, G over B, A minor, G, F, C over E, D minor, G, and then back to C. Okay, and the second time around, of course, we do C, G over B, A minor, G, F, C over E, D minor, and then F over G. Okay, F chord in the right hand, G in the left, and then C. And the rhythm's a little different the second half through it, so Jesus is the way. Anyways, it might be a little more advanced for some of you out there, but go ahead and keep practicing, making up your own songs, playing, you know, F chords, G chords, just making up some different patterns with them. You can even with just major and minor chords, you can still sound good. So your main goal for this lesson is going to be to practice all your inversions in each of the 6 chords we've learned: the C, F, the G, D minor, E minor, and A minor. Practice all your inversions with these 6 chords. Practice those daily. Your next practice goals will be to practice the different fills we've learned. Number 1, the inversion fill. Practice playing that in the song, even if you just do it once in the song. Practice, you know, doing the octave fill. Practice doing the broken chord fill. Okay, practice doing it going up. Practice doing it going down. Practice doing the octave ascending fill. And practice doing the octave descending fill. Practice doing the sliding off the black notes, using those grace notes. A little jazzy, bluesy sound, country sound. And I think that was pretty much it. So, and then of course your little fill-in notes on the chords. So when you're playing a C chord, remember you can go down with those too. So. Of course, your different fill-in notes change depending on what inversion you have. So, obviously, if you're playing, this inversion, your fill-in notes are just okay. Whereas if your inversion is this, your fill-in notes are or going down. Or if your inversion is this, your fill-in notes are or. So there's so many different fills. I mean, I can't go over each one, but you kind of just have to get creative with it, use your imagination, use your ear, and eventually you will get the sound of it, and it'll start just clicking. Remember, this is only the second lesson. Of course, feel free to watch this lesson over again and contact me if you have any questions. All right, God bless. We'll see you back for your next one.